a good leader is a sacrificial servant. You're serving others. You're leading them. You're not managing them. A manager tells you what to do. A leader shows you what to do. And so, and then in the end, they elevate everybody else's strengths, and they take the least amount. They take all the criticism, and they give everybody the glory.
Because of the low morale, and then people see this, the officers see this, they feel it because they know these officers that happen. That is why we don't feel safer now than we did 2 years ago.
I tell you,
We've lost a lot of those good ones, and you're not going to pick them up because now who the hell wants to be a cop? And it's a national thing.
You talked about his management styles, right? Number one, take care of his own. Sustainability, take care of himself, take care of his own. A lot of management by vendetta and a lot of management by paranoia. We've talked about other things. We've talked about differential treatments in discipline, how these people get disciplined and those don't. We talked about the differential treatment and appointments to the high levels of the police department that are people that are always in his circle, not necessarily the best. We talked about exit interviews. We read it from very respected deputy chiefs. We talked about his abysmal record in disciplinary hearings where people have been, or arbitration hearings where people have been out of work for 4 years and gotten their job back. So nobody has said, hey, that should have never happened. And then now we're talking about this. And if the chief of our department or the head of the association isn't going to speak up on something like this, are they ever?
No, I guess not.
Blu Wolf Podcast.
This episode of the Blu Wolf Podcast is brought to you by Blue Line Professional Inspections. Check out blproinspections.com or call 210-771-8831 for all your inspection needs, including home inspection, wood-destroying insect inspection, sewer drain inspection, and on-site water treatment inspection. Blue Line is a first responder-owned business.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Blu Wolf Podcast. I'm Willie Cantu. I'm here with David Sapansky, retired captain from the San Antonio Police Department, academy classmate, and of course, good friend. We had to round these people here you see in front of us really quickly because of this topic that we're going to talk about today. We wanted to strike while the iron's hot, so to speak, and talk about this issue that is extremely important, not just to us as officers here. And I know, as you see Nico LaHood here in front of us, we'll introduce him here in a little bit, but it's also dear to him about this situation that occurred within San Antonio, Bexar County. Last Wednesday was sentencing that came out on a suspect that was involved in shooting 3 officers back in August of, 2013?
No, not 20.
2013. 2023. And so they sentenced him Wednesday. And when you know the full context of the whole incident, the charges that he had on him, actually at the time that they went to arrest him, and then these actions that he did at that time, and then the extra charges he picked up during that the whole incident. This guy only got 45 years, and it was a plea bargain, obviously from the DA, Joe Gonzalez. And we've talked about Joe Gonzalez, Bexar County DA. He is Soros spot. There's no denying that. And as we're seeing across the country lately, a lot of these guys are. It's not saying they're not doing what they're elected to do. They are doing what they were bought to do. I mean, this is what this guy's doing. But Nico, welcome. I appreciate you being with us and spending this time. I know you're a busy man.
No, it's okay. It's an honor.
It's okay. You're a little late.
Well, this is going to turn into a roast really quick because I've known Willie for years. Oh. I mean, what do you know? You're 65, so I've known you since you were 35. I've known you a long time. So Willie and I go back. I've known David too as well.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to restrain to keep it PG. So. Luckily, we can edit all that crap out.
No. Keep it raw.
But yeah, so Nico and I go way back. Yeah. I've known you almost my whole career.
Yeah.
33 years in the police department. So now, 35, 37.
You knew me before I got in trouble.
Yeah.
That's how far we go back.
Yeah, from St. Mary's.
St. Mary's Strip when I was working there when I was a young, stupid-ass kid, making dumb decisions. You had nothing to do with that. But, I mean, we knew each other from then. And then went on my journey in life and through the justice system and and the personal challenges that I went through with my brother's passing. So yeah, we've known each other.
You've been on a ride, and and I think I've told you this before, and if I didn't, well, then I'm going to tell you now. I mean, when they talk about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, that's a true analogy for your life, and you mentioned it. I wasn't going to say it or anything like that. And then to become the DA of Bexar County, eventually put yourself through law school. Obviously before that, have a very successful practice now with some really good attorneys, as I know. But our friendship has maintained this even keel. There's been no ups, no downs, or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it has been. I don't think I told you this because I got a lot of people busted my balls when I got arrested because I know a lot of police officers from working on the Strip, and people used to be popular places. It was like St. Mary. I mean, it was like Austin, 6th Street, and a lot of officers used to work side jobs after that. That was back then when it was allowed. You could work bars, side job bars, and Willie never befriended me. You said, look, I don't know what Nico's doing or not doing. That's on him. He'll be accountable for that. You didn't say it just like that because you're not very articulate. But I mean, but you said he's a friend, and I'm not gonna. You never shunned me. You never did that, and I always respected that. I appreciate that. And so I don't feel like I pulled myself by the bootstraps, but I know what you mean, and I appreciate it. I decided to live life a different way. I look at the world differently. I felt I give God credit, and I'm not one of those fake ass Christians that just throws God or thank Jesus or my Savior. I mean, He is my Savior, and I'm very passionate about my faith. That. Sure. But my ideology, my worldview changed, and so I'm doing my way sucked. Then I started doing life a different way, and then of course 2 years after I was arrested in '96, August 15th, my brother was murdered, and so that's why this stuff. Michael, we call him Mike Jr., and he was murdered in my parents' driveway. I walked out 2 minutes later with my parents, my younger brother, my aunt was staying with us, my mom. And there's a whole testimony behind that of just being angry at the world, angry at God, angry at everything, just an angry son of a bitch for years. And so my journey in life, I wish I didn't write it. I didn't write it, but I wish I didn't have to live it, but it is what it is, And so thank you for saying that, Willie. I'm humbled by that, but I'm also very resolute on what I believe. And I believe I can back it up with evidence. I'm an evidence guy, so evidence matters to me. And so, thank you. I'm not shy of opinions, but I hope to justify.
Well, you're humble, sure, because you are an inspiration. I mean, all the things. I mean, for you just to lay it out here, that's not really why we asked you to come talk today. But for you to be so open about it, and to be able to say, "Hey, look, you can make mistakes when you're young, and you can still accomplish many things." That's an amazing testament to you. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I was one of the people on the arrest team that arrested one of those guys because there are multiple.
I didn't know that.
Responsible, yeah. So I know that part of your life, that journey. I'm fortunate to have gotten the chance to know your family, your parents. They're wonderful people. We're thrilled to have you here today to talk about something that's really important to us as former police officers, former as much as you can be former.
Sure.
And then as citizens. And this is something that just really just pissed us off. I mean, it just really pissed us off. And I'll let Willie take it back and give everybody a little rundown of what we're about. Sure.
Yeah. So on January 2015. I'm sorry. I'm reading notes here, and we're already beyond that stuff. So this guy, I believe it's Jesse. Is it Jesse Garcia? Yes,
Jesse Garcia.
Yeah, his name doesn't matter because he's nonetheless a turd. We're going to be real on this podcast. We're obviously speaking freely. We're good friends as it is. I think people prefer to listen when they listen to podcasts that it's kind of raw. We talked a little bit before, but we actually got together pretty quick. But we also know that with all of our experience here, we can put together the big picture of why we're here with it. But this guy, Jesse Garcia, this suspect here, last Wednesday took a plea bargain of 45 years, which in his actions that he was involved in August 24th of what did we say 2023. Yeah, I wrote it down there. I can't find it here, but sure. August 2023, he tried to kill 3 police officers. He evaded arrest. He was a felon in possession of a firearm again. He had 4 felony warrants, which is why they were going after him the first, to begin with. obviously, what was it? First degree felonies carry
5 to 99 or life.
Yeah, repeat that again.
5 to 99 or life.
Right.
That's the only
I
difference.
got and third degree felonies.
There is 2 to 10. But now technically you're eligible for up to 10 years of community supervision or probation and a $10,000 fine, but nobody's getting probation on cases like this. They shouldn't, at least. So, but that's the range of punishment. First degrees have 5 to 99 or life, or up to 10 years of deferred adjudication or some type of community supervision, which includes probation.
And in fairness, like, fair to just for people that maybe aren't as familiar with the 5 to 99 is there for the severity of the crime, the circumstances, the past criminal history.
All of that.
Yeah.
David, you're right, spot on. So there's drug cases that are first degree felonies. Right. There's white collar cases that are first degree felonies, and then there's the murders of first degree felony. Aggravated assault against a peace officer, some prosecutors mistakenly charge that as attempted capital murder. But you're adding an extra element that you have to prove before a jury if it gets that far, that the offender and the accused knew that it was a police officer. Many times like, oh shit, I didn't know I was shooting a police officer. I just thought I was shooting. And then you make it more difficult when attempted capital murder is a first degree felony, aggravated assault against a peace officer, first degree felony. So when I was DA, we never charged attempted capital murder because it's an extra burden on ourselves to prove.
So since we're being candid and
Sure.
we know each other, right? It's all good, right? So that's one of the things that's always kind of bothered us a little bit, especially with this kind of a case where these guys are in a marked patrol car, wearing full police uniform, in pursuit of them. He's running from the police. He's using an automatic or semi-automatic weapon to fire at them. A lot of people are in prison for aggravated assault. Yeah, you put the PO on the backside of it, but for us, like attempted capital murder of a police officer is probably more. In this case, would that have been that extra element been so much more difficult to prove?
No, but it's not needed because I'm a result kind of guy. So yeah. I mean, I tried a case when I was DA. Tiffany Kieran, she was a Selma PD that was shot. 2 officers were shot the same incident. A guy named Jesse Hernandez. So Jesse, I guess the common theme here, and shot her in the face, went through her face. By the grace of God, she didn't pass away. She got shot in the face.
Right.
Went through her, took out her eardrum, and then another gentleman got shot in the thigh and broke his femur. And I tried the case myself, and I didn't just step in and do a cameo appearance. I mean, if I tried a case, I tried it from bell to bell. That's just my style.
Right.
And he's my law partner now, Jason Goss.
Okay.
He's a phenomenal, one of the best trial lawyers and lawyers I've ever worked with. And so Jason and I tried the case, and there was no plea bargain for us. I mean, we didn't even offer one. I mean, the prosecutor offered something. Jason pulled the offer, told me that he pulled the offer. He was the court chief of that court. He had the authority to do that. He told me why he did it. I said, that's fine. And I said, we're not going to make an offer on something like that. A jury's going to have to give him something better. We got life on him.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is the respect towards, to me, the profession. And that I think that's what bothers us the most about this situation. Obviously, being law enforcement before, not that we seek respect. We weren't these guys that you need to respect us or anything like that. But you kind of expect it when we know that we put our lives on the line, and when we do. Most police officers, I can't say all, 99.9% of the time, their work is very, very good. And a lot of it just goes unreported because no one wants to report it, even the officer. That's what I'm supposed to do because I'm a good person. You know what I mean? And then when you see something like this, and like these officers trying to protect the public and take a guy like this off the streets, and then this happened, and then the end result, end up like this, to me, it's a slap in the face.
Yeah, I know this is not the direction you want to go, but like the whole defund the police bullshit narrative that was out there for years until recently. I'm sure you've talked about it in the past, but drove me insane. It was absolutely insane. The institution of law enforcement is a good thing. We want order. For me, as a biblically minded man, God's a God of order. Police officers, theoretically, the institution brings order to a society. That's a good thing. We should love that idea. Of course, there's individual officers that you guys, if they gave you a bad rap and if they did something wrong, you'd call them out too.
Yes.
Same thing with lawyers, same thing with whatever. But there are certain cases, in my humble opinion, when you're the chief law enforcement officer as a position of being the district attorney or depending on the county you're in, if you're the county attorney and you have jurisdiction, you have the dual jurisdiction on the misdemeanors and felonies, you're sending a message to the public. You don't shoot at police officers. This could have been 3 capital murders. It wasn't because this guy didn't try.
Sure.
He released the shell. I mean, he shot the weapon, and by God's grace, they didn't pass away. Although Showquist, I mean, that's a hell of an injury.
So let me, this is a good time to talk about, because you mentioned, and we say it a lot, by the grace of God, you're talking about those officers that woman hit in the face. And this will kind of display something similar.
Okay.
And I want to describe how the situation went down.
Yeah, don't assume people know. Right.
Correct.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
How it went down. And from what I knew, when it went down, and then obviously speaking to other officers and all that, you want to put we weren't there, obviously, you want to put the pieces together so we know everything, and we don't sound stupid if we say something stupid, then we're wrong about something like that. I don't like to do that. So it started out where this guy was at a relative's or a friend's apartment. I don't know
The
which
defendant.
one. The defendant, yeah. I'll call him that. Or can I call him a turd?
Okay, whatever you want.
Yeah. So this defendant was at an apartment of an acquaintance, a relative. He was so bad that they called the police and said, "Hey, this dude I don't want him here. He's like dangerous." And I've had that happen before. Because sometimes these friends pop in on friends and, "Hey man," and they're like, "Look, dude, I'm trying to clean up, and you're just way over the top." And they that's happened before. And
So what the call come in as? Disturbance?
Wanted person.
It was a wanted.
They knew he had.
Wanted.
They knew he had an active warrant, so they were just
Yeah, with the name, they ran him. Oh shit, he's got felony warrants. And I believe it was the TAG unit that was involved, the Texas Anti-Gang.
He was a gang element.
Yeah, gang element. So I didn't do a lot of research on his criminal history. I mean, because to me, when I work, if you told me he's a gang member, I don't give a shit. Because what if he takes the actions of a gang member and he's not a gang member? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out later. Document if he's undocumented. I never really cared at that point. But you can just by the look, and you'll see his mugshot up here. This guy is a crook. Tattoos on his face and all this other shit. So they're doing surveillance on the apartment. And when a guy, I think they described that he was armed, you don't want to make entry on an apartment, just to go get a wanted person. It's dangerous. You kind of want him out of it, because that's not knowing that.
Can I just chime in here?
Yeah.
Because I think it's important for everybody to understand the context. At that time, the police department really wasn't doing no-knock warrants. This was after 2020.
Right.
I'm not saying that could have been with a tactical team,
No doubt.
but they had other people in there. So all those things were being considered.
Sure.
Like, we have people in the house. SWAT's going to always do what they do. And that's why I think we did consider that.
They weren't going to let them at all.
Right.
That
That's
was when it was very hot. And I was going to mention that. But you're right, because that we can run off on a whole other vein on that.
I just want the people to
No.
know the circumstances.
100%. And it's not wise really to go when you can draw somebody out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And wait about it. It's really not wise to go in there with guns blazing or armed or whatever. So they waited for him. The guy came out and got to a car with another person. So it was a driver. And I don't know, again, I don't know who it was. So he was the passenger. But he came out, they noticed he had a rifle bag. So when you see that, and he's got a violent criminal history, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, because now it changes the game. To me, and I'm speaking about my experience on SWAT, when that checks off a box for me. If he puts that bag in the trunk, obviously, he doesn't have the rifle with him unless I saw him unload or whatever. But if he's got the bag next to him, then he's armed, with the rifle, and we all know how bad that.
Well, he can still be carrying it.
Well, this guy, you'd assume he's armed anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
with
thinking
the
he's on his
pistol or
waist.
whatever,
Yeah.
100%. But again, a rifle throws a whole nother
Element.
to think about in there. So, and I believe the SWAT team was in an unmarked van. They were hiding off somewhere, because you can't sit in that armored Bearcat in certain neighborhoods, because everybody makes you.
Sure.
Phone calls ring, and hey, it's these police are in the area. So they're waiting on unmarked van. And I think the plan was, once they got in the vehicle, it was facing into a parking space, which means they would have to back out to go out. They felt like they didn't need to pinch him in the front, because there was like a curb, and there was like a 2-foot drop off. You know what I mean? In front of them. So they rolled up behind to assault the vehicle, basically, and apprehend him. When they did that, they got.
And that's a term of art, just in case non-law enforcement are watching. They're not committing an assault on the suspect. It's a term of art on the vehicle.
That's a good point
Yeah,
to say.
you can't assume that it's all law
Well,
enforcement
and
watching this.
just real quickly, that's a good point, because I taught vehicle assaults. I was told, and I taught them in the department, I was told to change the name because it sounded too aggressive. I said, well, it's vehicle assault, not vehicle driver assault. It's,
Yeah.
but I said, call it Mickey Mouse Playhouse. I don't care. It's the same shit.
Yeah.
But all this play on words with this stuff here. So, and we can go on a whole nother tangent on the tactics involved with that. But when he made the officers coming up behind him, the SWAT guys, he put a gun to the driver's head and said, you need to go. So now the driver has to go, otherwise I'm gonna get killed. And they punched it, went forward. And they went off that 2-foot embankment and got stuck a little bit. And then through, just keep trying, spinning the wheels, they were able to get out in the way. So that was an element they just did not expect.
Sure.
And I understand it. Like nobody's going to do that.
Right.
Well, they did it. And that's how I'm going to mention their names: Red Shoquist and Adam Rule, who were riding together, 2 SWAT guys in a marked unit. Because they
They were SWAT guys?
They were SWAT guys also.
Because Shoquist's daddy was SWAT.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Shoquist. Well, me and Wayne were partners. Before you and I were partners. But yeah. Don't get jealous.
Let's talk about his ex.
I can't take this guy anywhere.
But so he comes from a good bloodline, and Wayne's dad was DEA.
Yeah.
We just did a podcast with Javier Pena from DEA, took down Pablo Escobar. He knew Milton Shoquist, just you talk about just a long lineage of law enforcement. So, and Rhett was ex-military as well. Adam Rule, I don't know much about Adam Rule. He was on SWATs, good guy, great shape, but they're riding together. Mm-hmm. And so they get on the surveillance. This guy's evading arrest, obviously. And people need to understand that these people just don't take off because we pretty much in a state in the department of no chase. There's a no chase policy.
Yeah.
But we want to get this person off the street, because they also had covert units around there, so they're going to do surveillance. I don't know if they had the helicopter up.
Just as a matter of fact, this would have been a chase that would have been approved. Like at this point,
Depends on
remember they hadn't shot at him yet, right? But the driver had a weapon on him.
It's a hostage, which is where the aggravated kidnapping.
I mean, sorry,
and he had one of the cases was aggravated kidnapping.
Yeah.
I think that's what
it would have probably in all fairness.
So they get in, and so the trick is, and because we've done this many times when I was on SWAT with Wayne, a lot of times. The trick is to stay back far enough, number one, to not get shot by a rifle, which is very hard to do, but close enough to when they bail out that you're able to try to catch them.
Right.
It's always this, you're slowing down, speeding up, slowing down, and then traffic, you have to deal with traffic.
Yeah, didn't we learn from the Bobby Decker situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so similar things.
Yeah. And so he said, I heard that they got off right there at 35 in Oriental, which is just south of downtown. And they got into that neighborhood. And Rhett felt like, I think he was driving, he said, I felt like he's going to bail soon, so let me get closer. And when he did that, they rounded the corner, the car was stopped, and he took shots. The passenger, the suspect, was leaning over the back of his seat and shooting it out of the back window.
With a long rifle.
Yeah. And so the deal about by the grace of God, and no doubt it was with Rhett. He said that he had his sunglasses on his head. For some reason, he said he put them on before all this went down. He says, I don't know why I did it, but he's thankful he did it because when the round went through the window, like hit him in the face, it went through his glasses, and because of the glasses, it forced the round to go down. So it went down and out of his cheek
Instead of through
his head.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, what do you attribute that to? By the grace of God.
Say Michael. That's
Yeah,
what you attribute.
yeah. He still lost his eye, but and obviously not his life. And at that point he was done. He couldn't try to fight through it.
Yeah.
He thought he's going to die.
Yeah.
And it's understandable. He thinking about his wife, his kids, and He said Rule wrapped his head and he says, "Well, I'm not going to lie to you, but it looks bad, but I think you're going to be okay because it came out your cheek." And he says, "Cheek," like, okay, so it's not in my brain. Is where which I'm sure gave him more of a will to fight and all that. But the guy fled and then encountered another officer, and he shot that officer 3 times.
Raul Chavez.
Yes.
And he still had the long rifle. Was he having?
It was with the long rifle.
Okay.
Yeah. And then held up in an apartment. But the SWAT got out there, surrounded it, became a barricaded suspect, and negotiators and stuff like that. And he came out.
Got it.
He gave up.
Right.
And all. So as we know, at the time, he had 4 felony warrants at the time. One was, according to the news, was for felon possession of a firearm. Another one was for evading arrest, 3rd degree, which they didn't say the vehicle. It could have been in a vehicle, but it could have been that he'd already been convicted several times for evading arrest. It was considered felony, right? So obviously he was a felon possession of a firearm again, and then evaded arrest in a vehicle, which is a felony, and then attempted capital murder on 3 of them. Because Rule got hit too with shrapnel.
Okay.
Not as bad as obviously it was Red or Officer Chavez, but he got hit as well. And like we just talked about, it wasn't for a lack of trying to murder these guys.
Yep.
I mean, this guy didn't say, "Let me shoot some rounds past their head and scare them."
Yeah.
He was literally trying to kill these officers. So obviously that's why we have you here, to talk about. To me, it's a very light sentence for all those charges that he had pending on him, again, pending prior, and then the new ones that he picked up. And I say that because in 1991, you probably know this. I haven't talked about it too much, but no, I got shot in 91. Yeah. Dave knows that because we're classmates and academy classmates and things. But my guy only got 40 years, and I thought that was bump. Obviously got found guilty of the deadly weapon.
You were shot with a 25, right?
A 22.
A 22.
Yeah, I was shot with a 22. And mind you, I still have 2 bullets in me, and I have scars, but I have no disabilities from them, right? I've had a couple of complications with scar tissue, which really hurt, but it's just the way it is. I didn't lose an eye. I didn't lose mobility or anything like that.
Chavez lost some of his hearing.
Yeah, Chavez lost hearing in 1 year. Obviously, Red lost his eye, and they ruled that path. So they're the only 2 that have permanent disabilities. But to us, and right away, boom, I sent it out. I said, dude, and we started jumping on the bandwagon. This is ridiculous, because we all know that Joe Gonzalez is solo spot. One thing that I think people need to remember is, and it was maybe 2 years ago, a year, where the media found out he was being guided by the Wren Collective, WREN, like the bird collective, and they're a group out of Austin that are big time leftists. If you look at their website, really the only thing they're trying to do is reduce the number of minorities incarcerated in jail or prison. But after that, they don't give a shit how that happens.
Yeah, but that's a good goal, but how you do it matters.
Correct. Well, and the fallout from it. The fallout from it.
Yeah.
You just don't cut them loose. Oh, you're a minority? Sorry, for your upbringing, and you cut. But that's these types of people that they think that.
I don't know.
So that's why we called you, and I consider you an expert. Obviously, you're a doctor in law. What is your take on that type of sentence?
Yeah, so you say you use specific words, Willie. So you said very, very light sentence. I would not consider this a very, very light sentence. It is
a very light sentence, one very?
Maybe half a very. But
should I say ver?
Ver.
Okay.
No, well, look, there are some cases that need to be tried. See, whether you get 60 years or life, you're eligible for parole at 30. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get out at 30, even if he got life or got 60. So if someone gets 60 years, 70, 80, 90, or life, they're all eligible for parole at 30. Whether they get it or not, it's up to the board, the parole board.
But there's times that they will say on the sentence, not eligible.
No,
parole,
unless it's capital life.
Okay,
you're always eligible for parole, unless it's So if you charge with capital murder, it's either death or life, unless you waive the capital and you plead to murder, then you have the 5 to 99 or life.
Okay.
So the only true the only true life now is capital. Back when my brother was murdered and all that thing of that Netflix show is because 40 years, you got capital life back then. You served 40. You were eligible after 40 years, not 30. Now capital life is life. You will leave this earth from prison unless you're commuted your sentence or your pardoned or something of that nature. So to say 45 years, I mean, he's eligible at half the time, right? I'm sure there was affirmative finding of a deadly weapon. It's a 3G offense, or the old statute would say 3G, meaning that you're going to have to serve at least half of that. He's not going to get parole. I mean, he's probably going to serve most of that 45 years. But for me, I mean, if I was DA, I would not have offered that. This is a case that you just have to try. You have to try the case, like just like we did with Tiffany's case.
And tell me why?
Because you're sending a message. We're gonna go for your life, figuratively. And if you're facing capital, we're gonna go for your life literally. Which I made many capital murder decisions when I was DA. But you're sending a message. You're trying to take a life. We're gonna go for your life. Life meaning life in prison. And now whatever the parole laws are, they're all, and the legislature can change them if they want to. But we have to deal with. We have to work with what we have. I would not have offered 45 years.
So the message part, excuse me,
That's okay.
But the message part is big for us because, after 2020, you talked about defund the police and all of those things that came with that. The police officers and their position, just what they do was kind of degraded a little bit. It was like eroded a little bit. But if this guy shoots at 3 uniformed police officers, what's he going to do to regular citizens?
That's the idea. See, when someone assaults their mom or a cop, you just think if your mom's not safe and your cop and a police officer's not safe, you're telling society to go piss off, and you're telling your own family to piss off. So your kids are not safe, your wife's not safe, anything. So that's my mindset. That's just the way I think. And so yes. So there's people that were pissed off. So when I ran, you guys knew and that's why law enforcement didn't support me at first, except for Willie. And so I didn't get law enforcement because they didn't know. They thought, lifelong defense attorney, this guy got arrested for selling drugs. What's this restorative justice bullshit? Well, that's been bastardized. Restorative justice, in the way I implemented it, means that there's people we're pissed off at and there's people we're afraid of. I mean, if you're burglarizing a car, you might get shot. That's the risk you're taking. You're pissing us off. You sell a small amount of drugs, you're pissing us off. You small thefts, you're pissing us off. Can we help you restore yourself so you're not a drain on society? I think I'm an example of restorative justice.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah, not that the system worked. It was my journey and me changing my ideology. That's what I tried to bring. My family, my faith. I tried to bring that mindset into the justice system when I was DA. But so, can we restore you back to society? If we're afraid of you and you act like an animal, well then you're going to be caged up like an animal, or you're going to give your life to.
But let me say something real quick before we get too far away from that, because I think it is important about what you just said, not get support from law enforcement initially. And I talked.
I'm not offended by that.
No, I know you're not. I know you're
Except
not.
for Mike Haley, because I think he's a coward.
Okay.
Don't edit that out.
Yeah. I took it as such, and I was just a lowly patrolman at the time. I took it as such, like, hey, here we want people to be integrated back in society. They call prison corrections, and here we got a guy that got corrected and went beyond that. He just didn't get a job at HEB bagging groceries, and hasn't done crime. This dude put himself through, law school, came out, became an attorney, which is not easy at the time, and then he ran for DA in one of the highest offices in this city. Is
Has there ever been another?
That's what I say. I take no credit for that. How do you go from selling drugs in the town you were arrested in, and then being the DA, the top law enforcement officer in the town you were arrested in? I mean, by God's grace, humble myself by that. But I did have to make decisions in my life to do things
But
differently.
my question is, I don't know of another.
I've not heard of
that
it.
has gone.
I've not heard of it.
I have Joe Gonzalez's statement after this happened.
After this incident?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
And be candid, and you'll have it.
Thank you.
So Jesse Garcia Jr. will have 45 years behind bars to consider the consequences of his actions. It is our hope that holding him accountable with this substantial prison sentence will bring some sense of justice to the brave officers who risked their lives in apprehending him that day. So, to me, he knows he's not going to do 45, and he knows this isn't going to bring some sense of justice to those police officers. Those police officers don't think this is fair.
Yeah, but my question back, and look, in an objective question, I've been in that position, and so I understand it very well. Why out for 45? Why not take this to our peers?
Yeah.
Take it to Senate, to Bexar County.
Well, that's a
residents.
question we'd all like to.
So
let them speak.
let me tell you.
Did you have a problem with the case? Was there an evidentiary issue? I mean, you offer something that's not. I didn't mean to cut you off, Willie. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
But you offer something less than the case deserves when you have a problem with the case. If there's an evidentiary issue, if there's a constitutional issue, if there's a procedural issue, there's something that you're risking. There's a negotiation. You're going to have to give something because you're trying to get something. I mean, often that is an ideological thing. He doesn't believe in capital punishment, in the death penalty for the most part. So he negotiates that away all because that's a mindset.
Yeah, he has. It's not even a thought for him.
Yeah, they're just anti-death penalty, and I'm a responsible advocate of death penalty. It should not be used for anything other than justice, appropriate retribution, which means that you're doing the right thing. It's not revenge. So that's a mindset. That's the only thing you negotiate away. Okay, we're going to take a chance. We're going to have a 4-month trial. The resources, you talk to the family and the deceased family. You figure out and then you say, okay, we're going to waive the death, but you're going to get capital life. But on this, I don't know what was the problem with the case. Why? What do you?
So can I ask you, with the number of charges, 3 officers, other charges that were there, couldn't there? If you really wanted to plead this out, I don't think there were any evidentiary issues on this case. I really don't, but I don't know, and I don't want to speak for him outside of what he said. But I mean, 45 years. I mean, couldn't he have said, hey, we're going to go to trial? You want to plead to 1 count? Attempted aggravated assault of a police officer, we'll give you 99 years or 85 years, and then we'll dump the rest.
Well, no defense lawyer would plead someone out to 99 years. They might as well turn their law license in. So I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is there are certain cases that you just have to try.
Yeah.
And we all know that. Prosecutors know it. Defense attorneys know it. You just have to try. Like with Tiffany Curum, it was just, I'm not trying to embarrass this prosecutor at the time. She's not a prosecutor anymore, but Jason saw that offer and he's like, there's no way Nico would be okay with this, because he knew the way I thought. And Jason wasn't okay with it. He pulled the offer. He immediately, before it was received and accepted, Jason told, look, this offer is being pulled. This offer is being pulled. It was like 30 years or something. And I said, no, I'm trying that case with you, and it wasn't anything personal against the defense counsel. Yeah. We were friends with him. Matter of fact, Bud, he's a great dude. I respect him. I'm a fan of his. He's a gentleman and an honorable defense jurist. Litigant, but he knew I was trying the case. He knew it, and we got life. And he did his job honorably. We did our job.
It just seems like this is an insult to the officers, an insult to the profession. And it just seems like, obviously, right? Joe signed off on this, right?
He had to.
He signed off on it, right?
Well, yeah, he gave a statement on it.
Yeah,
for sure.
You would think that he would, after doing that, would contact the chief of the police, right, and say, "Hey, man, this is what's going on." I don't know that didn't happen. I don't think they have a great relationship. Just on that note,
just politics.
we've been pretty vocal about what we think, like you said, the eroding culture is in the police department, right, under this chief. Now, I'm not asking you to weigh in. I know y'all know each other from when you were there.
Yeah, man, I know.
But when we talk about this, like, it's so. I was telling Willie, the silence is just deafening. Like, we've heard no outrage or no statement from the chief. We've heard nothing from the association president. We've heard nothing from the city manager, nothing from the deputy city manager, nothing from the mayor, nothing from council.
You're not going to.
4 people on council are running for mayor. One of them was on our podcast, Matty Pelias, gave a 2-hour-long podcast interview with us. And in there, he talks a lot about what he wanted to do to kind of rectify this kind of approach or this mindset when it comes to the police. And I have some quotes here.
But he didn't do that while he was city council, but that's another discussion.
No, he's still on.
I know, but okay. That's
but I guess my point
right, he's got the opportunity to do something.
He's on city council right now, so I don't know.
So that's my point, right? Like, if you're running for mayor, and others are too, sure. And you come on here and you say, hey, the police are going to be. This is one of his quotes.
Earlier, I was saying, I want this ex-mayor, ex-mayor who stands in front of City Hall on Date God and says, this is a new day. This is a day where we're going to recruit the best of the best, right? We are going to retain the best of the best. We're going to make sure that every man who lives here is proud of their police officers. We're going to make sure that every police officer who lives here and works here is proud to be in this department, win for us. And then just as vocally and enthusiastically to say, but nobody, right, in my city gets to shoot at officers.
But nobody gets to shoot at our police
Who said that?
officers. Manny does.
I call bullshit on that statement.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
that's
respectfully,
his-
and I know Manny. I
Yeah.
mean, if he was here, I'll bring him back when I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to Manny. I know him. I like him as a person. But he's city council member. Why has he said that as a city council person?
and that's why
I mean, I
I'm
guess
bringing
he's
it
going
up.
from
Just in the
all of a sudden.
podcast, but when he becomes mayor, again, you have the power to
Well,
and not to mention, this would have been a great campaign thing to jump on.
But it's a principle. It's not about an opportunity. Fuck that. It's about a principle. A principle does not waive, no matter who's saying it.
Yes.
A principle applies to me. A principle applies to my kid. A principle applies to everybody. If it's a principle, there is a principle that if you believe that nobody should shoot at police officers, I don't care if you're bagging groceries, which is an honorable job, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're whatever you are, you're going to stand up and say something because
But
that's a
my
principle.
point. That's my very
But see, now you're going to get me going because all these people, with
We
all
wanna
due
get you
respect,
going.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't take much.
You press the button.
With all, they're all. What should I say? I was a shitty politician because I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to temper myself with evidence by God's grace because I want to make sure that I don't want my good to be spoken evil of. So I'm going to temper myself as the best I can. But there are certain things that drive passion in me, and fake ass people drive me nuts. I can't stand. I don't like a lot of lawyers. I can't stand most politicians. But I do like public servants, and I like statesmen and stateswomen that are going to stand for something, and that means that they'll die to something too. I told everybody, I go, whenever someone comes to me and says, I'm going to run for office. I said, okay, not that they need to come to me. I'm nobody. I'm a schmuck with an opinion. But I was like, okay, are you prepared to be a one-termer? What does that mean? Are you prepared to serve one term and then get back out? Because you're not trying to piss people off, but you're not trying to go along to get along.
Yeah.
And so all these people that you mentioned, nobody's going to say anything because they don't want to be that lone wolf standing by
They're
themselves.
playing a game.
But it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just say what you mean what you say. Try to be gracious, be factual. I don't like sound bites. I mean, we live in a soundbite world. I'm not afraid to piss off my side.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I say things that, what are you talking? How could you? Because it's the truth. I don't give a shit. The truth is the truth. It doesn't care about your opinion. Winston Churchill said something. The most valuable thing in the world is the truth. It's the most objective truth, not selective truth,
Right.
not your truth, not relative truth, and all that BS narrative that's been out there for about a decade. The truth, it's objective. The objective truth is valuable. Now, what you do with that is up to you.
Right.
So there's a principle that I hope comes back to this city, and I hope that we get in public servants. Notice I didn't say politicians. Public servants that are not afraid to be one-termers. That truly have the citizens' interest in mind. The citizens of San Antonio and the citizens of Bexar County.
Why do you say one-termers?
Because you're not afraid to say what needs to be said.
So you
And
think you're
if you
only going
piss
to
off-
last that term because you got to eventually piss somebody off.
I wasn't
They're not gonna
afraid.
vote you
I
back.
wasn't afraid. My identity. See, all these, not all of them. I don't want to say all of them. A lot of these Mamalukes, that the title becomes their identity. I was never the DA. I served as the DA.
Right.
I'm Nico LaHood. I'm a child of God. I'm an American of Lebanese Mexican descent who's a husband and a daddy. That's who happens to practice law. See where the lawyer
Yeah, I
was
get it.
was at the end. That's my identity. In that world, husband and daddy come before American. But you know what my point. But that's my identity. I was not the DA. I served as the DA.
That's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when I got out, I didn't skip a beat.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't my identity. People call me all kinds of bullshit, from drug dealer to criminal, piece of shit, all that. That's fine. That's your opinion, and I have an opinion about you too. But that didn't shape me. So all these people, they're worried, in my opinion, it seems like, because I got eyes and I can see how this city and this county is being run. And fear is not a good leadership quality.
Well, the point I brought this up, one, I got to acknowledge that he was our first guest, right? So we always have to be appreciative that he came on our podcast. We're a relatively very young podcast, and he wanted to talk to us about what he saw, it's his vision to be a mayor and to try to fix the police community relationship, right, and with City Hall, those things. So the reason I brought it up is I'm like, hey, if you're going to stay in on here, why, as a mayoral candidate, as a turned out councilman, why are you not saying, hey, this is unacceptable. This shouldn't be. These are your words.
Because then he gets sideways with Joe, and then Joe's supporters, whichever
Which goes back to principle,
14 that he
right?
has, that get pissed off at him, and he's running for mayor of the city. You see where it goes? Because everyone's looking at their positioning themselves. Again, I know Manny. I went to law school with him. I like him as a person.
Yeah.
this is not a personal attack on him, but I'm going to objectively evaluate behaviors patterns.
Okay, so let me tell you something else he said.
Go ahead.
And without trying to get you,
It's all right.
get your blood pressure.
I'm good,
So,
man.
no, but I mean, these
spray
are,
bottle we can spray
no,
out.
no, but these are important things to talk about.
Like, get you nervous.
Because we've said all along, we do this podcast, at least I do, I know Willie does too, but we do this because we want what's best for the men and women of the police department. That's why we're doing it, right? So this is what he said.
When shit hits the fan, right, and they turn around and look for support from the chief and the assistant chiefs and all that, suddenly the room's empty, right? And that officers feel like they're left out to dry, right? Way too many of them are telling me that they're not hearing, they're not even hearing the most basic forms of support coming out of the mouths of city council members and the mayor and the city. Now, we can sit and debate whether they're wrong or they're right.
Who said that? Manny?
Yeah.
But he's part of City Hall, so he's talking about himself?
Right.
You're not getting support from City Hall? Oh, wait a minute, I'm in City Hall. I mean, This is my point. That's great. You're this is not a show against Manny. I like Manny.
No.
But you're termed out, and now you got. So I hope you get all the mayor candidates that want to come. If they don't want to come, that's
We're working on
get
it.
them all in here because you have an audience, I'm sure.
But there's like 8 of them.
No, there's like 29 of them.
Is there?
Oh God, it's a shit ton of them. But what I'm saying
I
is,
want to run for mayor.
yeah, but what I'm saying is all I'm saying is look, I care what's best for the citizens of Bexar County and San Antonio, and in that endeavor, what happens in our police department matters to the citizens.
So that here brings the $1 million question. Why is the chief of this police department not out here banging this table or that table in front of cameras and saying what happened here is a travesty? I'm protecting my officers. Willie and I have been on this podcast and we've talked about a number of things. And I'm not asking you to weigh in. I swear, I'm asking you to weigh in on this part. But we've talked about his main, what we believe, and I was a captain in the interim DC for a while, so I've been around him a lot, right? We talked about his management styles, right? Number one, take care of his own. Sustainability, take care of himself, take care of his own. A lot of management by vendetta and a lot of management by paranoia. We've talked about other things. We've talked about differential treatments in discipline, how these people get disciplined and those don't. We talked about the differential treatment and appointments to the high levels of the police department that are people that are always in his circle, not necessarily the best. We talked about exit interviews. We read them from very respected deputy chiefs. We talked about his abysmal record in disciplinary hearings where people have been, or arbitration hearings where people have been out of work for 4 years and gotten their job back. So nobody has said, hey, that should have never happened. And then now we're talking about this. And if the chief of our department or the head of the association isn't going to speak up on something like this, are they ever?
No, I guess not. Look, Bill didn't govern that way when I was DA. The DA gives a lot of cover to people. Remember, the chief is an appointed position, and you're being appointed by the mindset that you guys are rightfully, constructively criticizing. So you have a mayor, you have council that Manny's part of, and everybody else that didn't agree with because the way, my humble opinion, I know Bill. I knew him back then, at least, and everybody can change, I guess. He doesn't, the way he thinks and his worldview is not the way he governs, from what I've seen. And it's changed since I left the DA's office. I know the way, with conversations, which I'm not going to share. I know I've spent a lot of time with him when I was DA. And so, professionally and personally, in the sense of, because, you forge relationships. What I've seen, the governing style is very different, but think about it, it's a reflection of who your boss is. I mean, you're not an elected official.
But not even 10 minutes ago, you said you live by principles.
That's me. I'm giving you my assessment of him.
Yeah.
Me, I don't give a shit. I mean, if you don't like it, then don't talk to me or vote me out, which happens.
Bill is, I call him Bill.
Okay,
Chief McManus, whatever the hell, I don't work for him anymore. But he has ridden the political winds here in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And you mentioned.
It appears that way.
Yeah, because of the government. We have a leftist city government.
Ideologically, you're right.
Most of the city council are leftists. So our city managers are leftists. I don't care. I don't know about Eric Walsh, but he hasn't done shit himself.
Does your audience know what that means? A leftist?
They should by now.
Okay. I don't know if you talk about that or not. Because that's
no,
an
I mean,
ideology,
you would
it's a
think by
mindset.
now with everybody talking about leftists and
Okay.
with the the
I'm a trial lawyer. I never assume my audience.
I
That's
get
all
it.
right.
I get it. I'd hope that I don't need to build a watch before I tell them the time, and stuff like that. But that is the problem in this city, I believe. And I'm a pessimist at heart, and I think by virtue of probably the profession. but I don't see us changing because it hasn't gotten bad enough in San
Pain's a good
Antonio.
motivator.
Yeah,
Pain's a
it's
good
a yeah.
motivator.
As we saw it change in the nation.
Yep.
Because it got bad enough. But San Antonio, they want to continue working on the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing, hoping for a different result. And Maria Villagomez is actually over, so what they call the deputy city manager.
Maybe city manager.
She's assistant city manager, but she's just got an accounting degree. Now, this chick is running public safety. Now, I do know, and I can say it with confidence, she's all about DEI,
Mm.
no doubt. Look, they appointed as the fire chief here recently. Now, I know her, and I think she's a nice person. So far, I'm hearing good things about her. I'm just saying this.
The fire chief?
Yeah, the fire chief. I'm just saying, I knew that was going to happen. And I don't doubt if and when Bill leaves, she's going to look to do the same thing with a female police chief. And I'm just going to call it right now. But that's my issue. That's why we ended up here. And like you say, nobody wants to step out. Everybody's in that kind of like the slalom racers. Nobody wants to step out.
Yeah. Question for this, Nico. Really, like I said, if he's not going to do it now, like
Who, the chief?
the chief, yes.
Yeah.
But my question to you, right? Like as a very very successful lawyer, your own law firm, former district attorney, you've lived a life that is inspiring in terms of we all make mistakes, and then you fix those mistakes, and life becomes a better life, right? Are we as cops or retired cops unreasonable to think that our chief or our association president should be saying, this is bullshit, this is shit, we're not going to support you, we want you to answer for it, and we're going to say it until you come out and say you're either sorry or you give us a legitimate reason?
What was the reason? Why did the chief and Joe get sideways? Remember they were speaking out against each other, and they
It was a couple of years.
It had to do with letting criminals out.
That's right.
Low bail.
That's right. And then they were refending, right? So we know that he'll do it at some point. So what's that point for him? I don't know what was going on behind this. Look, there's a lot of behind the scenes. You know, if you served in the ranks.
I'm hearing, and I just talked to someone today. He is health wise. He's old. That he is not.
How old is he now?
He's in his 70s.
Is he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And he is. He's not moving as well as he used to. You know what happens when you get, your mind kind of starts.
I'm not moving this way.
Well, my mind's not as sharp as it used to be,
Yeah.
but I think I'm still kind of there. But, that's what I just wanted to say that I'm hearing that. Obviously I'm like, well, when's this motherfucker going to leave?
Some people, you got to check your resolve, man. Some people think, oh, I like to fight. I mean, there were times that say, Nico, you really want that fight? I mean, I got sideways with a district court judge because he wouldn't let them wear jeans during Fiesta. It was a 1 week, and there was no trials. We didn't have any juries. And I said, well, no, then our folks are not going into your court. And people criticized me, but I stuck up for my folks. And they're not my folks, but I was the dumbass with the name on the plaque. But I was in charge of stewarding their well-being, and I wanted to show them that I was supporting them. And so I said, then, okay, well, then you don't have anybody to work your courts, Judge. And they'll be in the conference room saying you won't let them because they're wearing jeans. Because you don't tell them, I tell them if they wear jeans.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
And I was taking a principle stand. There it is. Yeah. And there's, of course, Brian Chasdick or whatever his name was at the time to work for the SA News. I mean, he criticized me because there was nothing I could walk on water, and he would complain that I couldn't swim. But that's cool. I have thicker skin. It didn't bother me. I knew that in that office, they respected the fact that I was going to go to bat for them for a principle. And it's not worth it. It was worth it to me, and it was worth it to my folks.
But isn't that the quality of a good leader?
In my opinion, yes. I mean, so if we're assessing leadership styles, no one you've mentioned to me is a good leader. There's not one person you have mentioned to me that, in my opinion, is a good leader. Because a good leader is a sacrificial servant. You're serving others. You're leading them. You're not managing them. A manager tells you what to do. A leader shows you what to do. And so, and then in the end, they elevate everybody else's strengths, and they take the least amount. They take all the shit, criticism, and they give everybody the glory. I never said it was my office, it was always we, us, and ours.
That's a rarity, Nico.
Well, I mean, that's just, you're asking me. I'm not trying to make myself look.
But it doesn't.
I'm just telling you what you can see.
It doesn't surprise me about you. Like I said, I've known that. You have thicker skin. The journey and where you're at now is your success. I don't need to tell anybody anything else about what I did. Even my office, I've won. I've won already. And that's how I feel. I've won. I don't need to.
In one of our podcasts, It was, I don't even remember which one it was, but he said, so we were talking about leadership style. So he asked, so what is a good leader? And I think I said something like, well, a good leader in the police department doesn't vary much not much from what other industries are, right? Your people have to matter first, right?
Always.
And that's the fundamental foundation. You need to work for your people. So what you're saying is we echo the same thing.
They have to be able to trust your decisions. They have to say, no. Let's say whoever's the chief is the leader. I already know what the chief's going to say. Your folks that you are, it's about stewardship to me. If you're in the responsibility of leading people, you're stewarding all these other people. They have to be able to say, and people would say that in the office, I already know what Nico's going to say to this. Because I'm consistent. They know my decisions and they've seen my behavior. Because my pop taught me a lot of things. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words, right? I mean, it's a biblical principle. He didn't realize it at the time, but it's true. He goes, don't tell me you're going to change your life after I got arrested and he picked me up downtown. And that's a whole testimony I get at men's conferences.
He'd slap you?
Well, he wanted to. I asked him to. Him not doing it was worse than bitch slap.
I should have done.
Yeah.
Shit.
I know. But he goes, it will take you years to build up a good reputation, 1 second to screw it up. Don't tell me you're going to do something. Just do it. Just do it. I don't want to hear your bullshit. I mean, just do it. And so I did. I took that seriously. I just did it.
Yes.
And so a leader, the people that are just all lip service without any behavior, I look at people's behavior. Again, as a biblically minded man, it's a principle. How do you judge a tree? By its fruit. Your behavior tells us everything. Your behavior is truly an expression of what you think. So this says
it's funny because we talk about our fathers, right? I mean, they have big, obviously, huge influences on us, right? My dad said something similar to me, and I'm sure my grandfather said it.
It's a generational thing.
But he always said, man, he goes, when somebody shows you who they are, you should believe them. And that's an old thing, right? But it's still true to this day. I say to my children. And I really believe that the people that we're always talking about here are been showing us for a long time. And so my question is, for all of the men and women of the police department, at some point, the fact that the leaders in the leadership position of the chief department, the chief of police in the police department, the leadership at City Hall, the leadership at the SAPOA, if they're not showing you who they are, if they're showing you who they are and not speaking up for you, you should start believing them. Because this to me is a no-brainer. The fact that nobody came out publicly and boisterously saying this was an injustice. Now, I know you said it wasn't the most terrible.
It wasn't the most egregious plea bargain, but I don't think it was appropriate.
Yeah.
I would not have offered this.
Overreacting on this?
You're very emotional. So no, I'm joking. I mean,
Tissue.
no, brother. I mean, no, you're not overreacting but you're not just reacting on this. You're assessing a pattern of behavior from this DA and from this chief,
correct,
and from your career, and you've seen a lot of different leadership styles as chief and as DAs. For me to be, I'm included in that too. So you're looking at this, you're making an assessment, then you're looking at the last 6 years of this DA, and however many years Bill's been in that position, and who was the mayor during that time, and who was the city manager, where Scully, or whether now it's Eric. I mean, so you're looking at all that. So this is that. Man, this is like a kick in the nuts to you, and I get it.
I think one thing that's extremely important that goes along with this, and that I would believe it's very foundational, is the morale of the officers right now. After 4 years of getting our asses kicked, with bullshit, we
represent a lot of the police officers that get charged.
Right.
Seriously,
right.
thank you.
Well, yeah, we take it very seriously.
Well, I mean, we work together on these things, and that's why I do it. And I don't think I told you this, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, so it goes along with this, but when we defended Tom Villarreal and Carlos Castro, and I was sitting in the courtroom, I sat next to him every day. I'm not bragging about this. The feeling I had, out of all the operations we did, running warrants, with critical incidents, hostage rescue type of stuff like that, I never felt more righteous sitting next to these guys who their consequences, they could have become felons and gone to prison.
Yeah.
And that was a real thing. Yeah. And I felt like I was finally doing something after all the shit that I've done. You know what I mean? But my issue again is the morale, because we talk to a lot of officers still, and not to mention with social media, and they comment things like that. One of the good things that we're getting out of this podcast, and the best compliments we get, is that we feel like you're our voice, because they don't feel like they can say anything out of fear of retaliation in the department, because that is real. But enough of this kicking the shit out of these officers with stupid shit that you have the power I would even say, I mean, I don't like the 45 years, okay, but they only gave him $1,000 fine, and then they gave him credit for time certified. Give me something. Don't give them that shit.
The fine's irrelevant.
No, 100%. But it's also optics.
It's optics too.
It's optics too.
Perception is reality.
Sure.
And the reality is my analysis, objectively. I mean, this is not personal with Joe. I'm assessing the position because I was there. Do you think you couldn't have gotten 45 years from a jury?
Right.
Do you think it's worth 45 years? And if it is, why? Those are my questions. Maybe he'll articulate a good reason. I have to keep an open mind to being wrong.
Right.
And so I keep an open minded that if Joe were to tell me, Nico, this is what you know, it's like, Joe, you're right. Okay, I'm going to defend Joe now. That's what I would do. I would actually do that.
And I believe they had the compelling evidence. It's not like it was like, ooh, I don't know.
From the outside looking in, it appears that way, yes. So I want to be, so I look at it myself. But then I would have said, then now you got to go to a jury. Yeah. What are you risking? You got to go to a jury and you have to let the jury speak. Because he would have gotten life.
Yes, he would.
I mean, they would easily gotten life.
But
that's an easy life case to
speak
me.
about that, because I've heard from, some of your colleagues that they're not very confident in the jury pool in their county,
In what sense?
In a sense of
Who isn't confident?
I wouldn't agree with that. I would
Defense counsel or prosecutors?
defense.
Against police officers?
In period, things like that.
I don't know.
And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just saying that they didn't have like, hey, we have good people here. Not that they're not good, but people that side more, and obviously on the police side. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the narrative has changed in the country over the last 3 years,
Sure.
right? I mean, let's just analyze it. There was a period of time that,
and that's what it's based on.
I think that's a fair
So
objective
I can
assessment.
only use me, right? And only in fairness, I can only use me. If I had been shot, thank God I wasn't, in a situation like this, I would have had no problem. And you were the DA, or Bill was the DA, or Susan was, whoever's the DA. So we're going to take this to trial. I would have confidence that 12 people in this county would say that I would have convicted that person at a much higher penalty than this person that got. I have confidence in the city. I think the city is full of good people.
It is full of great people. I agree
They
with you.
support the police a lot more than other cities. I do think that they're they lean very hard Democrat, but I still think they're very good people who have always served, not very well, but supported their police at a very high level. I believe in the people the same. I absolutely.
But the other side is just as where I was headed. The skill part in your firm.
Yeah, the jury selection.
It is the jury selection. When I saw it, I was like, holy moly.
Yeah, you don't realize there's a science.
No, I did not realize that. And they tried to include me, and I tried to keep up, and I was like, that guy's an asshole. Yeah, you want that guy. I just kind of went that.
Jay Norton.
I want to say this: Jay Norton, Jason Goss, Patrick Valentine.
These are huge.
Jasmine.
Oh yeah, no, I've met most of them, and wow,
top notch. They're all prosecutors.
So can I give you another number? Because I know we don't want to keep you too long. You're being very generous, but
right.
At one of the podcasts, and the numbers have changed now, right? But at the time we pulled them up, since 2019, there were 144 officer-involved shootings. So in a 4-year period, there was 144 incidents. Now, I did say on some of those, multiple officers fired, right? That one at the mall on the south side, we had 5 officers fired. But 144 officer-involved shootings, and we had lost none. We've had officers injured. That's a high rate of officer-involved shootings. At some point, would you agree or disagree that this county, the district attorney, is going to have to start sending the message that these are going to come with huge consequences? You can't fire at cops and get these bullshit sentences. You fire at cops, you're going to go to prison.
But just in general, and I've done it from both sides. You can abuse, you can be an overcorrection, and then you're a hammer and everybody looks like a nail. That's not a good prosecutorial office to have either.
Right.
There's no meter justice there. But when I talk to people, how many people feel safer than 10 years ago?
I don't.
I mean, nobody. I mean, I don't want my wife going. I'll go to HEB. Just stay here. I'll go. I don't want her going anywhere at nighttime.
Yeah.
I don't even getting gas. I mean, my daughter hasn't started driving. She has her license because she hasn't started driving alone, and she ain't driving alone for a little while.
So that's an impact statement, Nico. That's
I don't feel. I mean, I care everywhere I go. I'm a huge Second Amendment guy, and I train with my weapons, and so. And I advocate responsible gun ownership, and don't just carry it if you're not going to train with it, and carry a hammer because you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else. But I'm real big on that. I mean, my daughters train jujitsu, boxing, wrestling for a reason, because I don't want them to have a victim mentality. And then my son does it as well. Obviously, the son that's on the spectrum does not train. He's special needs. But all that to say is no one feels any safer. I don't know anyone that's going to say, yeah, I feel safer in San Antonio. San Antonio is great. And the problem is, from a political standpoint, whether you're city or county, If that starts trickling into our tourism, I mean,
They'll feel it. They'll feel it.
Well, I mean, who the hell wants to come here? If someone says, "Hey, we got a conference in Portland," shit, I ain't going to Portland.
No.
I think we're gonna go to.
So
LA.
on that note, it was just last year. There was a conference here. Coaches, one was
That one got shot.
Got shot off the highway.
No.
I don't know if that case is open or closed. I have no idea. But I
haven't heard any
those
progress.
things
I don't
start
think
to
they arrested
get.
him,
And this is not the first time. We've had other tourists shot, but this was probably the most recent and the most severe. Very young lady. I think
But we don't hear about the assaults.
Yeah.
We don't hear about. I
the
mean,
robberies.
how many people go around do your own thing? Hey, how many locals go down to the Riverwalk?
I don't.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
You used to back in our day. People used to go down there because we enjoyed the Riverwalk.
Right.
Let all the tourists deal with that shit. Nobody goes to the Riverwalk anymore.
Yeah.
And so when I was in office, we had bike patrol was a big deal. We worked with them closely. We had the synthetic marijuana, which isn't marijuana, by the way.
It's crazy
dangerous.
as hell, right?
But it's
But
nuts.
see, that's
crazy.
why I mentioned about this, and the reason it impacts us, and while we're talking about it, is the morale of the officers, because they're losing it. And then again, we've talked about, if you go back and listen to the rest of some of the other podcasts about Andre Vargas lose his job and coming back, of course Thomas Carlos and those issues. It deals with the morale, what you're just saying about. It doesn't feel as safe as it did 10 years ago.
I don't think
You guys, we're short on officers. A lot of the officers that were close to retirement were starting to try to get the hell out as quick as possible. Some of the younger ones that just get on and realize, I'm going to get hemmed up on something stupid, because the chief is firing people for justified police action. And they're not even being brought up on criminal charges. He's just firing them on justified police action because he's pandering to the anti-police crybabies. And he does it. That there's no doubt he's doing that. But
Well, they're not doing a lot of proactive work.
Well, I wanted Willie to finish his thought. I think he was going here. I know because we represent a lot of law enforcement. You guys know him better than I do. I mean, they're just waiting for calls. Nobody's doing police work. I mean, look, nobody wants an officer to be a dick. Right? That's the 11th commandment. It's in Exodus. Don't be a dick. I mean, that applies to everybody, Christians, everybody. Just don't be a dick. But people don't realize law enforcement, what they deal with. I really am an advocate. Look, I hold law enforcement accountable as a defense attorney. You know that.
sure, yeah.
I mean, rightfully so.
But you're a huge supporter of the police.
I'm a huge supporter of.
So we should all hold ourselves accountable.
Look, I mean, two things can be true at the same time. The institution is a great thing. It's an honorable thing. This person abused their authority, and they need to be held accountable.
We, as cops that went through 33 years of this, we don't want some piece of shit as a police officer.
Of course.
We don't want that.
No.
So the world.
Yeah, but
Yes.
because of the low morale, and then people see this, the officers see this, they feel it because they know these officers that happen. That is why we don't feel safer now than we did 2 years ago.
I tell you,
You've lost a lot of those good ones, and you're not going to pick them up because now who the hell wants to be a cop? And it's a national thing. So now we've lowered the standards for employment.
if you get the right leadership, you'll get people applying to be.
And I've been screaming that.
No doubt. Yeah.
For the men and women.
It's going to be a long fight. It won't be that easy.
Well, look at the
You know.
DA's office. They have like 35 positions open. Nobody wants to work for him. And again, I'm not trying to be overcritical. I'm being objective. I can defend all these positions. The facts are the facts. I mean,
He lost a lot of competent trial lawyers too, right?
a lot of them. I wish I would look. And defense lawyers go, it's better than for us. No bullshit. If you don't have a good, competent prosecutor, they don't see a case that's crappy, and so they're going to think everyone's guilty.
So as a lawyer and as a former DA, and now you own your own law firm, right? I know you have partners, but isn't the fundamentals of learning how to try a case, being a good trial lawyer, it should be like the top thing for everyone.
I
Right?
tried. We had an actual training program,
Yeah.
trial advocacy. We worked. Jason helped with it. Another Bill when he was here. This guy Bill Squires, he's a judge in Guadalupe County now, and we actually did trial advocacy, how to walk and talk evidence in, how to evaluate what's Brady evidence, what's evidence of exculpatory, what do you have to turn over. We did all that training. You get out of law school, you don't know what the hell you're going to ask
You
for.
gotta learn how to argue the case.
You got a
Be the
degree.
jury, board hire a
Well, it's like the
jury.
academy. You go to the academy, you don't learn anything till you hit the streets.
Yeah.
Then you put it to work in that field. But that is the foundational thing, is about why we're so voicing our opinion about the deterioration of
Can I make a political plea?
Sure.
What I always and on the podcast that I do, we say the same thing. I really wish people weren't so tribal. I mean, obviously, I'm conservative, and I think conservative.
Sure.
And I'm very open about my beliefs. But
And the podcast is called Sidebar.
Sidebar's one.
Yeah,
Another one called Far Rated, which
Come out on Saturdays.
Saturday mornings. You
Okay,
guys
Saturday
have 9
mornings.
to 11.
Okay.
Half of it's on the radio, half of it's just Facebook Live. Yes, and that's more of a current events, political one. But then we do a R-rated Christianity. It's like the Christian apologetics defending. It's a little raw, but it's okay. All I'm saying is, can both sides agree that we want a safe community? We got to be able to agree on something. Can we agree that you should be able to go to the store and your kid should go to school safely? Yes. If there's students in your school that are threatening teachers then they need to be helped. Sometimes you have to deal with people harshly. Lady Justice means something. People think that goes back to the Greek times, and that is the goddess Themis. That's what that emulates, the goddess Themis. Now, obviously, I'm a Christian. I don't worship Greek gods, but the goddess Themis was the goddess of order. And so she wore a blindfold because theoretically, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Christian, Islamic, Hindu, Buddhist, or atheist. I don't care. I wear a blindfold. I don't do this shit. So she keeps it. And then she had a sword in her hand. Why? Because the justice system should be harsh at times. Death penalty, life imprisonment. I mean, then she puts her foot on a book. Why? Because she has to have a command of the law to be able to exact the law and to exercise the law in a community. So that's why, you put your foot on something like Captain Morgan, you control it. Then in between her foot and the book is a serpent. Now, regardless of your faith, the universal symbol of a serpent is evil. A serpent represents evil in society, dangerous. And the justice system in between her foot, and the book and the laws, that should crush out the serpent. It should crush evil out of the society. But in her left hand, what does she hold? The scales. She has to balance all that out. And she doesn't care about a newspaper, a reporter, this political group, that political group, this person, this protest, that. She's got to weigh it all out to make the difference between restoring someone back to our society or taking them out of our society because they're dangerous or whether we're ticked off at them. She has to balance all. Everything means something. We take it for granted, Lady Justice, oh, it looks cool. No, there's meaning behind that. And I truly believe that in my spirit, whether I'm a prosecutor or defense attorney, I believe in what Lady Justice represents. And I think that's what brings order to a society.
But I almost felt like that was totally just blown up this last 4 years.
Or everywhere, Daddy. I mean, of course, because people don't articulate
in the nation. I mean, we're seeing, these, of course, we kind of get the clip notes of things, and especially if it's national news or whatever, we don't see everything that's included in that. But, when you listen enough, you have to decipher, you have to weave your way through all the information from trusted sources and even some of the other ones that we're not to paint your own picture. But I just believe, and like you just said, yeah, that's what we want. We want this for our family, and we can be selfish with it. But I think a lot of, and I'm going to say, not just leftists, but just there's a lot of people that it doesn't matter to them until it affects them.
Well, that's life. Yeah, everybody does. Right, left, yes.
You said something a few minutes ago, and it was just like we were talking so much that it almost kind of got. I don't want to get lost. You said it'll come around again. It just requires leadership. The police department. We believe heavily in the men and women of the police department. We really do, and we really believe that, and I've asserted, and so is Willie, that they will always take their pulse from the man or women standing in front of them. That's just the way leadership works. Good leaders with a good heart that care about their people, that hold them to high, achievable, professional standards, and then have them be accountable for anything they don't do in that. With the right leader, this police department can again be a great police department. I agree. Proactive work, doing really good things on behalf of their citizens, holding themselves accountable, and doing good things. But the guy we got is not it. And don't take my word for it. Listen to what's not being said by the people at the top of these organizations that we've already ran up to, right? The chief, the association manager, the city hall, all of those things. Sometimes what they don't say is just as important as what they say. I agree. And so I just wanted to say thank you for saying that, because I believe in that. I think the right leader can come in at any industry, but we're talking about the policing industry, and do the right thing. And someday we'll get a new DA that will come back, the same sense of what you just described, and bring and restore, a positive decision in a judicial body that really does the right thing.
I just guess that I always say that the justice system is a social experiment. I mean, I've been in it. I came out. My uncle was in it. He didn't come out. My other uncle committed suicide. I deal with clients. I've seen the transformation of lives when you start putting on different lenses. I've seen authority abused by law enforcement, by prosecutors, by judges, by lawyers, by whomever. And the authority can be abused by anybody. And I'm encouraged by a justice system that's run with the right intentions, meaning to keep safe our community safe, to restore poor choices. I don't believe in mistakes. A mistake is if I write down a 7 and it's supposed to be an 8.
Right.
It was an accident. No,
Right.
I made a poor choice. I didn't make a mistake. I made a stupid ass choice, but I took accountability for it. I didn't make excuses. My pop didn't let me make excuses. My mom didn't let me make excuses. Back then, the system wouldn't let me make excuses. And I was held accountable. If I didn't change my behavior, then I was going to go to prison. That's it. Or I would have been a convicted felon. Not a convicted felon, obviously, regardless of what certain people like to say at the beginning before they knew me. All that to say, I'm very passionate about the justice system. I'm passionate about people. I've seen people. I mean, I mentor a guy that I can't say the name of the group, but he used to belong to a group that may or may not have been accused of doing criminal activity, right? And he changed his life completely, gave his life to Christ. There's a roughneck, heavy hitter in that organization, tough guy, he can handle his own, and he's tenderhearted now because he changed the lens he looks at the world. I've seen it in myself after my brother passed away and how angry I was. I've seen it in prison ministry that I've been involved in. I've seen it in people's lives and clients that I've represented and walked through stuff. I've seen it in people that I was overlooking, prosecuting them, but then you give an opportunity to turn their lives around and they come back and they thank you for that. And I know heaven rejoices. That's my motivation. I want people to live out and reach their God-given potential. And this system, in my opinion, should help people live their lives. You should be safe. You should be able to have your opinion politically. You have your opinion politically. We can disagree. Let's have a heated, passionate debate, but let's still be neighbors. We still got to be neighbors. We still got to live together. The justice system, the police force, to me, in my worldview, plays a role in that. And that's why law enforcement needs to be respected. Any individual, I would say 95% of law enforcement officers are good. I mean, we say 99, but this reality, it's not 99. I mean, there are some idiots, but if you treat people with respect, I mean, I get pulled over. I always tell people, I roll my back window down, I turn my light on if it's nighttime, and I put my hands out the window, and they're good, like, I'm either dealing with a felon or I'm dealing with someone that respects my profession.
I'm a retired policeman, and I do the same.
And then I have my license to carry and my driver's license, and then most, I'm saying this humbly, then they recognize me because I live in this area, and if it's somewhere around here, and then it's a wonderful exchange. But the people that I don't know, if I'm driving somewhere, they just respect that. They go, "Thank you for doing that." I go, "Sir, I'm carrying an appendix. Do you want me to do it?" "Nope, just leave it there. You're fine, sir. Thank you very much." "Okay." And then I keep my hands on the windshield because I know, I've seen the videos. I've prosecuted the cases. I know what most law enforcement deal with, and then so
That's a huge relief when you're the officer approaching. Now you go, okay,
I
this guy. Very few.
I mean, I record it still too. Don't get me wrong. Just in case I'm dealing with one of the 5%. But I'm just
thanks
being
for doing that, Mr.
Well,
Hood.
I'm just I still got my own video.
You laid out a lot of things really, really well clearly and very great. I mean, perfectly done too, especially the way you see it, the world, and you see the good in people in their ability to eventually, if they want to, like they have the right state of mind to turn it around. Unfortunately for us, this guy that was convicted the other day, Jesse Garcia, was laughing, smiling in court while the officers were giving their impact statements, which is discouraging. It's hard to see a guy sitting there smiling, when officers are talking to him, and the same ones that he made. One of them, like I said, lost an eye, the other one lost a tear. So, we're obviously.
But see, him smiling like that is a kick in the nuts to Joe.
Yeah.
The officers, I don't think they expected anything different. I mean, I wouldn't have.
No.
I wouldn't have. I don't
What's he
expect,
gonna do?
But when I was there and we got the convictions on my brother, I didn't expect anything from them unless there was truly a repentant heart. I believe anybody can change. I do. I actually believe those 66 books that I studied, and I believe in repentance. I believe in that spirit. I mean, you can change. I promise you can. But that smiling, that smirking, that arrogance, that haughtiness, as Scripture calls it, that's a shot on Joe. This is the guy you gave 45 years to, you dumb dick. I mean, this is what you did. This is how you get paid back. I mean, he's laughing at you, really. Yeah. Like, I tricked him or feared them because nobody else would.
I'm glad you said that because.
I mean, that's a shot on the DA for me.
I'm going to share it with these officers that were involved with this because and it'll be on the podcast video. It was a clip of their impact statements.
Defendant, you're nameless. You are unimportant. You are a coward. If you'd gone toe-to-toe with me that day in a straight-up gunfight, you would not be alive here now. But you ran away like a scared little boy, and you fought like a scared little bitch. I will continue to enjoy my freedom and my time with my family and friends. You will be in a cage where you belong. Cowards don't fare well in TDC. So, good luck.
I only have a few things to say to you because you're not worth any more of my time or energy. On August 24th, 2023, you decided to put countless innocent lives at risk and affect the lives of many of us in this room. Rather than face the consequence of your actions like a man, when you were surrounded and knew that you could no longer take any lucky, cheap shots at us, you surrendered like the coward you are. We all know the punishment that you should have received that day, but knowing you'll be rotting in the cell while we get to enjoy our lives will give us some compensation.
Before I go on, I want to be very clear that I'm speaking directly to you, Jesse. All these other people in this room don't matter. I think that, just like Raul, I'm not going to spend a lot of time speaking because you're not worth my time. You're not worth anyone's time in this room. And if there are people in this room who care about you, you're wasting a lot of time with them. All because you couldn't hold yourself accountable for the things that you were supposed to do. But like they said, you ran like a coward. And you should have stood your ground. I want you to know that if you get out someday, whether it's me and myself, or the generation after me, or the next one, if you can't hold yourself accountable for your actions, we'll be waiting. Maybe you figure out a way to do that, but I don't think that's likely, because I don't think that's who you are. You're 29 years old. You would have figured it out by now. That's all I have to say.
Hi, good morning. My name is Rachel Shoquist, and I'm the mother of Officer Brett Shoquist. On the evening of August 24th, 2023, I received the call that my son had been seriously injured. I drove from Austin to San Antonio, and it was a lifetime. When I got to the hospital, they had already taken Brett into surgery. It lasted 8 hours. Another lifetime. When we were able to see Brett, the first things that he said to us was that he was good, he was strong, and he was grateful.
And one of them,
The officers?
yes,
I saw it.
yes, Red Shoquist.
I saw it.
I've known Red since he was a little boy. No, of course I've known Wayne that long, but when he said what he said to this scout, now granted he was standing there in uniform, in police uniform, and what he said was just pretty much like, like a combatants. He said, I don't know verbatim exactly, but he said, you kind of like cheated. If you'd have gotten out and faced me one-on-one, then, that we would have figured out he was going to win that.
Gunfight, you wouldn't be sitting.
Yeah, you wouldn't be sitting there right there. And it was, when you talk about say what you mean and mean what you say, I took it as that because he wasn't. They weren't just feel good words for him. You know what I mean? And obviously this guy had already sat there and laughed at from some of the others and whatever. But it's a hard thing, and as because we're fighters. In a sense, we used to be. More so back in the day, but. I don't like it when someone gets a cheap shot on me and then gets away with it. You know what I mean? I just don't. That's me. I want to get you back.
That's revenge.
Sure.
And that's.
It's not a good thing. I understand.
But let me tell you.
But
this is a whole. I understand. But this is a whole different podcast, and I've done whole talks on this to men's conferences, on podcasts. My worldview. You sign a waiver, I'm going to straighten your jaw for you. You come and try to hurt my family, someone's going down in the box. That's
Sure.
my mindset, okay? And that's not talking tough, that's just a reality.
No, 100%.
That's the way I think. But at some point, for me, as a biblically minded man, nobody gets away with anything. And that's just my worldview. He ain't getting away with it. And what I've learned, the people that murdered my brother, I am expected to, my faith tells me, to want their salvation. I want them to repent before it's too late. I should want that. Now the prayer, there's a whole different, I'm going to turn into a sermon, sorry. But my prayer is, Lord, am I supposed to play a role in that? Now there's people in politics, obviously I mentioned Mike Haley earlier. I mean, if Mike came to me and said, hey, will you talk to me about the gospel? I would go to lunch with him. I'd buy him lunch and I would talk to him about the gospel. Mike was not honorable when he was in charge of Sapoa. Brian Chasnoff, if he called me, I would present the gospel to him and I would take him to lunch and treat him. Joe Gonzalez, I would do the same thing for him. That's just the way I am. Right. But if they didn't want to talk about the gospel and they wanted to get sideways with me, I'm good at getting sideways with people too. Yeah. You see my point? Yeah. But my mind, to stop that cancer in your spirit, for me, I had to, because it physically got me sick. Because unforgiveness, revenge, and the world will tell you I don't blame you. And there's nowhere in the Bible that says I don't blame you. But we're commanded to forgive. Now, that doesn't mean people aren't held accountable. I mean, I've made death penalty decisions that I wasn't angry about it. It was just the right thing to do. And I witnessed the execution of my brother's murder. And I didn't wish harm on him. I knew he was in the hands of the ultimate judge. The ultimate jury was in God's hands. So if I see Mauricio Brown in heaven, I'll embrace him. So that's just me. I'm speaking to that over this whole situation because
you know that he repented.
I didn't go to
in the same place. He repented.
Well, right? If I walk in and I see my Savior and Mauricio Brown's there, I'll embrace him as a brother in Christ because he's in heaven.
Because God get there.
Because he asked for forgiveness and God even repented. So all that to say is I didn't go to some sensitivity training. I've lived some life. I've dealt with unforgiveness. I've dealt with hate, and I've tried it the different ways. And all I know is with this discussion and with everything going on, guard your hearts. That's all I'm going to say to the audience and to yourselves. And we have to guard our hearts because it's easy to get bitter.
Well, coming on was awesome, man.
Oh, thanks,
I wanted to close out.
No charge for the sermon.
Yeah, no problem. We'll just send the collection. But I wanted to close with one of the last things Manny Falaz said on the podcast, and I think it's just so apropos here. And again, I just want to say, this is what he said.
If you're going to say words, right, and those words are going to be shoved down your throat sometime down the road, make sure those words taste.
Wait, say that again?
So he said, if you're going to use words and those words are going to come back and be shoved down your throat, make sure they taste good. In other words, if you're going to say something,
mean what you say.
Yeah, I mean what you say. And so we're going to hold people to those words.
What was he saying then? Why was he saying that?
Well, we were talking about just the whole podcast was about public safety. And he was talking about how he felt about the police and how the police, and he's heard that some of the erosion of trust that's occurred.
Did he push to defund the police? Okay. Bullshit.
Well, and come to find out later,
any of that,
did he?
That was on us.
He knelt with Black Lives Matter in the chambers.
Well, I don't know. I'll look.
I mean, that we do know.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
all I'm saying, look, see, first of all, nobody can shove my words down my throat because they're my words. Right. You ain't have to shove them down my throat. They came out of my throat. So I'm gonna stand by. Now, if I was wrong, then I'm gonna say, you know what, I was wrong. I've learned this since then, or I was thinking this at that time. I'm repenting for thinking wrong. Sorry about that. I'm not going to go on a tour of apologizing, but I mean, anybody can be wrong.
Well, I think that what he was saying by that, right, wrong. If you,
it just sounds good. I just
think in the context of what he was talking about, I think you could use that across the board. It's like, be careful what you say because somebody may come back and call you on your own words. And to me,
I don't say be careful what you say because everybody's too careful. Yeah. Mean what you say. Yeah. I'm not careful what I say. I mean what I say.
And then you don't have to be careful.
You don't have to be careful because you mean it because it doesn't matter. Now, think about your presentation. If I'm passionate, it's one thing, but I mean what you say. I'm not careful what I say. I don't. But I do mean.
Well, he said a lot of very pro-police things, and I get there's a whole backstory conversation. To your question, yes, we did it. We realized that he had said some of the things in a previous thing in 2020. But during the podcast, he said a lot of things about supporting the police, and that's what Willie and I are all about. My point on this is there's just a great opportunity right here to come out and show what you said on that show is really what you need, and come out and says, I don't agree with that.
Has he said that? No.
Not to my knowledge. Okay. He might, but not to my knowledge.
We're keeping an eye on the media and the social media to see what they're going to talk about it. Because I think this is something even if you didn't mean what you said, this is a good way to back it up and still not mean what you said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can't say it once and then have a great opportunity. That's why, and I'm didn't plan on saying this, but the San Antonio Police Officers Association president, Danny Diaz, I heard from a good source, stood up in front of the membership and told them not to listen to our podcast. Now, we have, amongst all the podcasts we have now, we've only mentioned him maybe 3 times. And it was a blip of that. So you're so insecure that you don't want anybody to listen, any officer to listen to our podcast. So they may not hear us say, why aren't you doing something about this? And this isn't just us, because we talk to a lot of people. They're not happy with him not defending the officers.
You guys asked him, and you text him.
I tried to call him. He tried calling him when I was in court with Tommy and Carlos. I said, hey, I wanted to give him the information to use to help himself.
Yeah.
And I have the text because he's a friend of mine.
Yeah,
I trained him. I trained him in SWAT.
And we're like you. We're never going to not try to reach out to you.
No.
Well, it's a biblical principle, Matthew 18. Go to the person first, and then you go to.
No, I tried to call him.
Yeah, good. I mean,
And I tried to help him help himself.
That's the way.
I mean, even if he stood up and said and talked just like we would like him to, and it went nowhere, at least he's trying.
Yeah, I agree.
But he is like Dave and I. We're just obviously now podcasters according to some people. We're no longer retired law enforcement. We're podcasters now. But
what does that mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we totally lost our identity there. But my issue is that we are speaking up because, as you know me, and I know you know David. Our hearts are in the right place to do the right thing for these officers because we've been beat to shit these last few years. So we're trying to keep, obviously the positivity in the profession. Number one, I think it's a noble calling.
It is. Absolutely.
And all. But I tried to help Danny help himself, and he stopped interacting with me. I said, okay. Then he uses my words that I told him in a text that he didn't say, hey, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever, in this interview. Okay. You don't even give me a thank you for saying that. But again, it's not this podcast is not about Danny, but it is about the people not speaking up about what happened. And obviously this is why we wanted to have you on, a true expert. Who's very close, and we know that your heart is with law enforcement, no doubt. And you've had situations like this case come before you. Very similar.
Sat in the chair.
Sat in the chair and made those decisions. And get your opinion on it.
And we defend law enforcement officers that are sometimes rightfully accused and many times wrongfully accused.
I steer them your way, obviously.
Well, thank you, Daddy. I look up. Even if I believe in our team and I believe in the heart of our firm. We care about the results and we support law enforcement.
Well, the fact that you came on here to talk to us about this today says a lot about you. We too try to be very principled in how we handle ourselves. And Nico, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks,
I haven't seen you in a long time, but I've known you a long time. It's so good to see you.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, man. This was a treat. And, just hearing, I didn't, obviously, the way you speak and obviously putting your faith and God into this is really awesome. Yeah. Because it was definitely something I did not expect. I knew you would, that's the way you are, but not to hear you put it into the right context.
It's real to me. It's the only thing that keeps me sane after going through all the shit I've been through in my life, from appropriately being accused of selling drugs, because I did, to turning my life around and not being believed. And I said, and I wasn't offended by that. I knew that my behavior, I remember my pop, forget about what you say. Actions speak louder than words. All right, Pop, well, all I can say is I've turned my life around. I'm just going to show you.
Well, you're showing everybody, bro.
Well, I'm going to say this. God, I don't know if I have permission to use his name. I think I do. Because I'm going to compliment him, so I'm going to use it. Billy Hunt. You know Billy?
Yeah. He was my sergeant.
Well, Billy was in the DA's office when I was running, and he was openly campaigning against me. Billy. And I knew it. And I said, well, it's okay. He's got a right to his opinion. If he hasn't changed his opinion in 6 months or a year, then I can't have people that are dissenting or anything. It was one of the most gracious exit interviews when Billy left, because he went to go work at another DA's office closer to home.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Billy Hunt. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I just think he's just a gentleman. And he's a big supporter of mine.
He's a great police officer too.
But he's just a good dude. Because him and I worked on, he knew how I was behind the scenes when the cameras weren't on. And he knew that there was a consistency in the way we worked together. He got to know my mindset, and I got to know his. And I mean, I just am my point being is you just have to show people what you mean. Tell them what you mean, but then show them what you mean, and your actions will speak louder than your words. Huge fan. Billy Hunt and I had a wonderful exit interview. It was just
Because you worked for the DA's office.
he was working at the DA's office before I was DA. Then he worked with me, and then he had left to work for another DA's office closer to home.
Can I ask you just real quick?
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
we already should have been
It's all
a
right.
long time ago.
It's all right.
Did you do the exit interview in person with him?
Yep. Oh yeah.
That is just so, like, and I'm not going to get into it, but that's a big, like, a little.
Remember that from the other podcast? Yeah.
Because exit interviews aren't being done at the police department in that manner, and it's really a shame. Some high level people that really conducted or put.
I made myself available, and I'm honored. I'm humbled. I'm humbled to say that they wanted to do the exit interview with me.
Yeah, and that right there is what a leader does, right? Yeah.
I worked with Billy Hunt when I was on SWAT. We was a detective. We took down a lot of his own suspects and stuff. He was my sergeant for a while, and
He's a good dude, man.
well, yeah, but he's a pain in the ass sometimes. Only because
But not Willie. Willie's never a pain in the
right, but only because of his tenacity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't anything bad. You could see him, and the dude, like, I know I'm a supervisor, but he wanted to be in the mix like a detective. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, and very knowledgeable because he'd been in it for such a long
I
time.
enjoyed working and with most of the people that I've
Well, hopefully, and I hadn't heard that name in a while, but I want to reach out and try to say,
Yeah, check him.
we Nico said some nice things
Yeah.
about you, and
Yeah.
maybe get another podcast
I'm a
listener
big-
and all that.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, not to mention just say hey because I hadn't seen it in a while, but and thank him. Thank him for his leadership when I was there and knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you for being
Thanks.
here with
Anytime.
us.
Anytime you need someone that's rattle off an opinion, I'm here.
Expressing your knowledge and all that. And
God bless you guys. Good luck on your podcast. God bless you.
All right.
Thanks for your service. All right, guys.